following is an 18PR production.
All right, quiet Studio A. Quiet on the set. Control room?
All set. Edit wave rolling. Tracks are hot.
Mic check, sweetie pie.
Check 1, 2. Check 1, 2, 3.
Michael, give me a sound check.
Hello, check, 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 check. All right, team, let's give it our best.
Thank you, Michael. All set. Action.
Well, howdy, y'all. The Free Range Texan podcast is underway. So here he is, our host, a real free range Texan himself, Michael Shawn.
Episode 37 of the Free Range Texan, transmitting around the podcast world in digital stereo. And that is very important because our special guest this time out is singer, songwriter, recording artist Matt Westin. And I have just been handed a message. A special report is coming up to our Free Range Texan News Network. We're going to be standing by for that. The 18PR Brain Trust upstairs has suggested that I take some more phone calls. That's always a hoot. Oh, yes. And a big thank you goes out to our West Texas FFA. That's Future Farmers of America. That group that has raised the funds to buy our head of security, Foxy the Wonder Dog, a small flat-screen TV mounted back over in the corner of Studio A, allowing Foxy, during her breaks, to watch her favorite show, Walker, Texas Ranger. Foxy is a big Chuck Norris fan. Well, she's a police dog, you know. And, of course, any journey always needs to end up at Michael Shawn's Campfire. So let's saddle up and get ready to ride.
Have digital recording device will travel.
Well, some of them other podcasts are kind of like that newfangled electric pickup over there. Hell, Zeke, you can tell they ain't exactly from around here.
Ride with the locals worldwide. The Free Range Texan Podcast.
Free Range Texan Podcast, who's calling?
It's Roger.
Roger Dykes.
Yes, sir.
Welcome back to the podcast, Roger. I know
thank you, sir.
If you're calling, Roger, this is going to be a big deal.
Well, we hope it is. We hope it's worth your time because we're always on the prowl for very interesting, entertaining, and informative stories.
Roger Dykes on the prowl. I think we can use that.
Well, I hope you can.
Well, prowl away, Roger. What's on your mind?
There was a bar, okay?
Yeah.
And as the crowd had gathered in this bar, around the bar, in the bar.
A crowd had gathered in a bar.
Yeah.
Go figure.
And a gentleman who was an entrepreneur, who was an entertainer type person, who arranged for various things, saw the excitement, and he decided he'd go check it out.
Roger, what was going on in the bar?
Well, he got there, and there was a duck, a real live, honest-to-goodness duck, dancing on the top of a pot.
A dancing duck?
Yes, on top of a pot. And he saw the crowd reaction. So he asked the bartender, he said, "Do you own the duck?" And the bartender said, "Yes, I do." And he said, "Well, I would like to buy the duck." And the bartender said, "Well, you can make me an offer, but really I'm not interested in selling the duck."
Well, you don't see a dancing duck every day, especially on a pot. Is that what you said? On a pot?
On a pot, yes.
A duck on a pot dancing. You know, people will line up for that sort of thing.
Well, that's what the guy sell tickets figured out. So he said, "Well, I'll make you an offer." So he made him an offer, and the bartender turned it down, and they continued to barter back and forth. Finally, the entrepreneur offered him $10,000.
Oh, my.
The dancing duck.
That's big money as dancing ducks go.
So, at that point, the bartender figured he couldn't go wrong, so he accepted the money and gave him the duck. Well, a couple of days later, the guy comes back in the bar with the duck, and he's mad as all get out.
Oh, my. What's happened?
Well, he says, you sold me this duck, and the duck is a fraud.
Fraudulent dancing duck on a pot in a bar.
Right. And the bartender said, what do you mean? I sold you a duck. You carried out the duck. What's your problem? He said, well, the duck doesn't dance. And the bartender said, the duck doesn't dance? And he said, that's correct. The duck does not dance. And the bartender said, oh, well, maybe that's because I forgot to tell you to light the candle under the pot.
Roger?
Yes, sir?
Have you got a file somewhere with the next tier of jokes or stories?
What are these are good stories.
If you had a day job, Roger, I would suggest that you keep it.
Right. If I had a day job, I wouldn't be talking to you now.
Roger, I'm going to be hanging up now.
Okay.
We interrupt this podcast for a special report from the Free Range Texan News Network. Well, again, as we often do on our podcast, we have moved to the Free Range Texan News Network news desk. This story first carried by Fox News across the entire United States, but we noticed it was quickly dropped. It was then that our FRTNN investigators began to find out the story behind the story. Hold on to your seats, ladies and gentlemen. This is not pretty. This is a story about a truckload of Krispy Kreme donuts that accidentally spilled some of its contents out onto the roadbed. Brookhaven, Georgia police officers answered the call, and their fears were found out. Reporting from the Brookhaven Police Department Facebook page, dozens of donuts fell from the Krispy Kreme delivery truck as it drove along Peachtree Road. BPD rushed to the scene, but to no avail. Officers said they found total carnage. Donuts scattered along the curb, into the gutter. The gutter, people! It's reported that the response time was stellar, but saddened, the officers said they could not beat the 5-second rule. The donuts were a total loss. As you can imagine, this is a very difficult time now for these officers, with the senseless loss of these delicious pastries deeply affecting all of the officers on duty that day. Many of these officers have been seen having what can only be described as sympathy donuts throughout the Brookhaven, Georgia area. I'm Michael Shawn for Free Range Texan News Network. You've been listening to an FRTNN special report.
Have digital microphone will travel. You're listening to the Free Range Texan News Network.
Now, give me that James Earl Jones thing there. Close your eyes and squint. This is FRTNN. Let's try that again. It's time now for another segment of the Free Range Talent File. Brought to you by A-Team PR, bringing a host of creative media production and public relations services to our exclusive list of clients. maybe you could hire the A-Team. And now, here's the next segment of the Free Range Talent File. Matt Westin is our special guest. Matt, welcome to the Free Range Texan podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's really good to be with you, and look forward to talking to you.
Matt, a lot of our listeners are different places around the world and across the country, but we have a huge amount of people that listen in the state of Texas. And we have winter down here, but my understanding is you're in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and you got some cold weather up there that you're staying indoors from.
I wish I was staying indoors. I've been working outside. Luckily today it was in the low 40s and not the low 30s. But we're heading in that direction. You know, it's going to be in the teens here in the next month or so. It's just part of living up here in the northern part of the country, you know.
Our understanding is that Billboard magazine has made quite a bit to do over you. The 2018 International Music and Entertainment Association Male Country Artist of the Year Award, you actually got it and took it to the house. That's a big deal.
Yeah, it was kind of a shocker to me because it was not long after I'd released my debut album in January of 2018. And I guess just a handful of months later, I was given this award. It just became real to me that I am a recording artist now, and I'm already being recognized so quickly. It was a little bit surreal and really humbling, and I couldn't be more thankful.
Where did you grow up?
Well, I grew up here in Pittsburgh. I've always been involved in music one way or another. You know, when I was a kid, whether it was playing in the band or orchestra in school, I was just always around music, always loved music, every different kind of music you could think of. I couldn't sing when I was a kid at all, though. So I taught myself basically how to sing by emulating guys like, believe it or not, Frank Sinatra, and like Garth Brooks and Toby Keith and Johnny Cash, and kind of figuring out how my voice worked over the years. And, long story short was I was an engineer, hated that, lost my job, decided to pursue acting, which had been a passion of mine and a hobby. Ended up in Los Angeles for about a year, and that's when my father got sick and he ended up passing away. So I moved back to Pittsburgh to be with my family and to get myself together because I was a mess, you know. I was in a really, really dark place. And he had always loved my singing and always encouraged me to continue pursuing music in some way. I was in the darkest part of my life, and instead of completely self-destructing, I decided I'm going to dedicate an album to my father. What better way to honor his legacy and to start a new one for me? And it was a huge part of my rebuilding process and my healing process. But that's why I named my album Legacy. It was like a dual meaning, to honor him and to start a legacy for my own. That's basically the short story of how I got to where I am today right now, speaking with you.
Honestly, we hear a lot of reasons why people ended up in the country music industry, but that is one of the greats right there, sir. And as far as our listeners are concerned, we want to tell you folks that there are pictures of Matt, some stage performing pictures and so on and so forth on our blog at freerangetexan.net. And also, Matt, we want to tell our folks that whatever music you've got available on the market, we want to have that also in our Free Range Texan House of Treasures, so that folks, when they hear Stomp On, it's coming up in just the next few minutes here, they're going to want some of your music in their personal mix.
So I feel really blessed and honored, and I really appreciate you doing this for me. And, I keep trying to raise the bar every time that I release a song, and Stomp On was no exception. That song's been really good for me, and it's gotten me a lot of exposure. So glad you got to hear it, and now here we are. So I must be doing something right. Quite an honor. It's very humbling.
So are you married at this point?
I'm not. I have a girlfriend, but I'm not married. So we'll see. I don't know.
Well, is she waiting for you to pop the question or what? I mean, do we need to get her on this call?
Well, she probably is waiting, yeah. We're just still caught up. Like, it's been crazy, brother. It's been crazy the last few years. You know,
Go ahead and tell me I have crossed the line. That's all right.
Yeah,
I get that a lot.
You know, I'm done with this conversation. No, we've just been through a lot of changes. We've been across the country. I've moved across the country twice in the last 4 years, changed careers, you know, pursuing this music. And there's just been a lot of changes and a lot of just life thrown at us so quickly and in such a short period of time that we're just trying to hang on at the moment.
You owe me no explanation, man. I just came at you from the other direction for a moment there. Let me say this. You've got this song called Stomp On. Well, this is the one that we heard here at the Free Range Texan. We go, man, you talk about power. What's the backstory on Stomp On?
I wanted, like, when the song starts, the opening of it, I wanted to paint a picture of like Clint Eastwood walking up Main Street at noon with his pistol and his hat and his cigar and his cowboy boots. You know,
like
maybe
it.
some explosions going on in the back behind him. You know, just this image I wanted to paint, and I think we accomplished that perfectly. If you listen to the song, in the beat, there's actually boot spurs jingling.
Oh man!
So, and that goes along with the stomp on theme, you know, stomping those boots. So yeah, that song, oh man, it's just high energy, and that's what that song's all about.
Well, Matt, by the time we get through playing this song here that's coming up, I know that there'll be a lot of listeners taking notes and saying, this is a guy that I want to keep up with. Well, we're going to do it now. We're going to, with your permission, share this with our listeners on the Free Range Texan podcast. Here is Matt Westin and Stomp On.
At the hitching post side by side, gravel lot full of 4-wheel drives. Bud Light sign says 50-cent wings, throwing darts in the back is where you find me. Stomp on, stomp on, stomp on into my stomping grounds. Come on, let me show you around. Stomp on into my stomping grounds. Stomp on, stomp on, stomp on into my stomping grounds. Come on, let me show you. Behind the bar knows everyone's drink. Becky's showing off a brand new wig. A second cousin Kenny plays bass in the band. They're about to go on. Let's find a place to stand. Stomp on, stomp on, stomp on into my stomping grounds. Come on, let me show you around. Stomp on into my stomping grounds. Stomp on, stomp on, stomp on into my stomping grounds. Come on.
been listening to the Free Range Talent File. If you'd like more information about our guest, just go to our website at freerangetexan.net. Also, submissions to be interviewed on the Free Range Talent File should be sent to our website at freerangetexan.net. Hey, let me take just a moment and tell everybody about something that's been going on here. We noticed that our Free Range Texan official series number 1 Campfire coffee mug has really begun to fly off the shelves here. We noticed it eclipsed and went past what even happened Christmas. And we wondered, how come that this is happening now? Well, we asked around and we talked to some of the people that were ordering our mug, and they all told us basically the same story. This is the time of year when people begin to think about going out and camping and planning trips to spend time outdoors. And of course, no trip like that is complete without a great campfire experience or 2 or 3. And so chuck boxes all over the land apparently are realizing that they are incomplete if they don't have our Free Range Texan official Campfire mug. And the worst thing that can happen is you can be camped next to another camp and they've got the mug and you don't. I know. It's not something you want to think about. Well, it just seems clear to us that the right thing to do is make our podcast listeners aware that Campfire mugs are still available while they last. The official Free Range Texan Campfire mug in midnight blue with genuine Campfire mug speckle is a sought-after item for campfire goers and Saturday morning coffee drinkers there at the house either way. The important thing is that you have yours. Now, I know what a lot of you are thinking. I can hear it in your brain right now. You're thinking, thank you, Michael. Thank you for reminding me, for pointing that out while they last. What I would suggest is that you go to freerangetexan.net and then you click on the Free Range Texan House of Treasures. Where else would they be? You'll find them. Tell them Michael sent you. Skimming across the surface of the World Wide Web comes an intrepid podcast for those rolling on roads less traveled. Heroes and Heroines File, the Free Range Talent File, the Unexplained File, Ain't Love Grand File, the Free Range Texan News Network, Michael Shawn's Campfire, worldwide digital stereo, coming right out of God's country.
You're riding with the Free Range Texan, the best little podcast in Texas.
Hi, this is Michael Shawn, and welcome to our campfire. Pull up a seat there. I have a story here that was inspired by Roger Dykes. Thanks, Roger. Billy's life was not easy growing up. When Billy turned 6 years old, his father, who happened to be a well-known outlaw, ended up stretching a rope for the crimes he had committed. Billy's mom vowed that she would do everything that she could to keep Billy from following in his father's footsteps. So, in an effort to keep Billy out of trouble, his mom took him to church every Sunday. It made sure that he did exactly what the Bible said. He always avoided getting into fights, which usually involved turning the other cheek. But in reality, this served to make Billy a target for every bully in the ranching community. Ultimately, while Billy's mother thought she had won out, the truth was Billy came home many days with a swollen lip and bruises all over his body. It was generally thought among the neighboring spreads that when Billy grew up, he would quickly forget what his mother had taught him and probably become more like his father that he hardly knew. But it turned out that Billy proved them wrong. He continued avoiding fighting at all costs, and the unfortunate outcome of all of this was that he became known as the coward of the county. Aside from the physical abuse he endured, it became harder and harder for Billy to find work around town because of his unwillingness to stand up for himself, especially against the notorious Johnson brothers. Finally, Billy's mom could no longer stand to see him battered and bruised day by day. She even understood that, after all, it was her influence that caused him to be the way he was. Because, you see, she had spent years teaching him that violence was wrong under every circumstance, and that one must follow the words of the good book. So then, the night came when Billy's mom came up with what she considered to be the perfect solution. After having all that she could take as a mother, she went upstairs to a storage trunk on the floor of her bedroom closet, where she took out her outlaw husband's Colt 45 holster and a box of cartridges from where they had been stored for a number of years. She carefully placed them in a cotton cloth bag, along with a note addressed to Billy. When Billy came through the door that evening, she told him that the cloth bag on the table belonged to him. Billy looked in the bag through swollen eyes because the Johnson brothers had beaten him up again. He took the string that bound the bag closed and slowly unwound it from the top of the bag. A look of surprise and awe came across his face as he saw his outlaw father's revolver, the shells, and a note addressed to him. Billy's mom said, "Go ahead, son. It belongs to you now." Billy turned to his mom and said, "But you always said that everything had to be done according to the good book." His mom answered, "I still believe that, son. Be sure and read the note." Then Billy turned back toward the table, and under the light of the coal oil lamp, he unfolded the note and read the following. "Remember, son, the Bible says it is more blessed to give than to receive." Billy's eyes began to tear up, but then he smiled and patted his dad's revolver. For you see, Billy had never really been a coward. And the rest of this story is, within a week, there were 3 new graves on Boot Hill, each bearing the name Johnson. Just another tale that needed to be told around our campfire. I'm Shawn. Adios, my friends. Time gone. Say, you don't think they could be running out of digital space back there, do ya? Hey, big thanks to Matt Westin. We all expect to be invited back to the wedding soon, Matt. Remember, you heard it here first. And this reminder, you're all welcome to show up over at freerangetexan.net. Good stuff there. And finally, we would say, please, would you all share our podcast out there with all of the people you know who clearly need it? You know, they need a security dog and a campfire in their life. We're just saying. Take them home, sweetie pie.
Thank y'all for listening to the Free Range Texan podcast, produced at A-Team PR Studios out yonder in West Texas, with our host, who's been voted the hardest working man in podcasting, Michael Shawn. Feedback or submissions to our program can be submitted on our website, freerangetexan.net. That's freerangetexan.net. This is Sweetie Pie on behalf of Michael, Shawn, and the crew here in Studio A, where we're all looking forward to spending time with you on our next bi-weekly episode of the Free Range Texan podcast. Y'all come back now. You hear?
An A-Team PR production. End transmission.